Can Christians do the carnivore diet? Should they do the carnivore diet? That is a weird question that has had to come up lately, and the reason being that the top doctors, scientists, professionals who promote the diet and explain it, try to explain it in scientific terms, pretty much always, and actually even with paleo, will pretty much always go back to the theory of evolution to say that this is how people used to eat. We used to all be just carnivores and that kind of thing. And if you're a Christian, you know that's actually just, it's not even a theory because it's not scientifically testable, so it's just an idea, or at best a hypothesis, which I don't think it's even really that. And if you want more information about that and why it's not, I would highly recommend following Dr. Jason Lisle. He's on Rumble and YouTube, and he has an amazing website. Biblical Science Institute is his website. And I'll try to remember to link some of that below for you if you want to check them out. He is so great at helping us to see exactly why scientifically the earth is not billions or millions or whatever of years old, and why man was always man, why God made Adam and Eve, really genuinely made Adam and Eve. He didn't evolve them out of apes or whatever else. He actually created them in his image as man and woman, and not as apes who became people eventually. And I've read and listened to a number of the different defenses from people who call themselves theistic evolutionists, which I thoroughly reject. Scientifically, it's not there. There's no science behind it, and no real science anyway. There's scientists who will say they're behind it, and therefore we're all supposed to be, and that's quite ridiculous, honestly. I like that Dr. Lisle says that the Bible is the Earth's birth certificate, and it really is. It tells us roughly how old the Earth is. Not exactly, but roughly, and it's not billions of years, just so you know. And of course, there's the presuppositions that, oh, well, why does stuff look so old? Well, compared to what? You know, we've been told it looks old. Why does it look old? What makes it look old? Because we see things that happen right now that you can test, you can watch, you can go through all the process and see it, and oh, well, all of a sudden that looks really old, but it only happened 5 years ago. You know, that it's not real science to suggest that it's carved in stone. Now, scientific theory, a real theory like gravity, for instance, that is testable with scientific method, and that's why it's called a theory. Legitimately called scientifically, it's called a theory because it actually meets that criteria. But evolution does not. The origin of men, the origin of people, the origin of the earth, the origin of the universe, none of that is testable by scientific method. And so it's not science. It's an idea. It's ideas. And generally those ideas are there because people love their sin and they don't want to deal with the holy God who created this universe. They don't want to deal with him. Even the ones who call themselves Christians, but who still don't just believe in evolution, but push it and insist on it and just are absolutely holding tight to it. I know that there are Christians who just maybe don't know better because we've all been raised in the world of being taught in school and on TV and everything around us that evolution is just a fact, but it's not. And so as a Christian, to get back to my point, I have read people saying that Christians, solid Christians, who would say, I would never do carnivore because it's based on evolution. It's based on this silly theory, you know. And I get that. I get the idea. But the problem is that I don't think you need to have the theory of evolution or the idea of evolution to be a carnivore. It's an elimination diet. And it's an elimination diet that allows you to still get all of the nutrition that you need to heal and to function. And that's a good thing. Are we supposed to be carnivore forever and only ever eat meat? I don't think so. I don't think that's really what we're meant to do, but because we live in a time in which all of our plants, everything plants, is covered in all kinds of garbage, all kinds of weed control and poisons, and we have a lot of stuff that's GMO, so it's not digestible anymore for a lot of people, or it causes all kinds of other health problems for a lot of people, especially in North America. I think it's less so in Europe, and I'm sure many countries, it's just not as much of a problem. And that's why you don't see the same degree of dairy intolerance or egg intolerance or gluten intolerance. in Europe, as you do in North America, we have an epidemic of those problems because of the garbage food that we've been brought up to eat that is there everywhere. It's the cheapest stuff available. It's tasty, it tastes good, and it's easy, it's ready to go, it's packaged, and even if you are doing your own bread baking and that kind of thing, you're still using stuff that has been modified and poisoned, and that's really sad. And that's why I think as Christians who are dealing with serious health problems, or even if you just really need to lose a lot of weight, that's a legitimate issue as well, then carnivore is realistic. It's a good idea to go for. You may not do it completely for the rest of your life. You might just stay in a lower carb range, but add some other fruits and vegetables back in, and maybe an occasional starch, that kind of thing eventually once you're healed. Maybe. But I think for some of us, like I might have to be on carnivore for, I don't know, many, many, many years before I could even add in other things. I really don't know at this point because my health is so complicated. So as a Christian, I don't have a problem with being on carnivore. I don't have a problem with recommending carnivore for people. And I don't use evolution as its foundation. I think anytime a teacher uses evolution as their foundation for their diet or their medical protocol, they've already just completely given a faulty reason to do it. They've ruined their own argument before they even started, and that's really sad, I think. You shouldn't need that. You shouldn't need this theory or this idea of history long before you ever existed, or mankind even existed, supposedly, to prove that this is the best diet or that it's the only diet. Mankind was actually originally living on fruits and vegetables. That was it. In the beginning, animals were not killed because death didn't exist. So, and even up until the time of Noah, people lived on fruits and vegetables. They lived on non-meat products. So back when our DNA was much better, much clearer, much cleaner, people lived for much longer, and there was no poison and no GMO or any of that. It was just like real food. Then they could live on it and be well, and it was healthy and good for them. But over time, as our DNA continued to degrade with the introduction of sin and the death that results from sin, which our bodies are all in a dying process, then we have had to use animals to survive. And that's why a lot of people who go vegan or vegetarian even eventually find that their health declines and that they have to add meat. They have to get that protein in that they're just not getting, because that's a particular kind of protein and a particular kind of nutrients that you cannot get from any vegetable. So meat and fish, those are things that we are at this point meant to eat. And for some of us, that's all we're eating because we just need to eliminate everything else and try to get our health in better shape. So that's what I'm trying to do. So as a Christian, I would say don't feel bad about eating carnivore. Don't worry about the people that just completely dismiss it because of the silly doctors and teachers out there who are insisting on tying evolution into it. It really doesn't have anything to do with that. This is an elimination diet to try and get better. And it's not perfect for everyone, but it is extremely helpful for a lot of people. If you've watched many of the YouTube videos or read on social media or the articles out there, there's a lot of people whose health has been absolutely transformed by going carnivore. So, or even keto, ketovore, anywhere in that range, there's just a ton of potential for health improvement that we're not going to get from our medical system, because that's a whole other story about how extremely corrupt that is as well. And if you just eat garbage and then you go and depend on the medical system and you take all their drugs, all you're doing is making yourself worse and worse and worse. And you're not going to heal. You won't heal from the medical system. It doesn't happen. That's sad, really, really sad. But that's the world we live in right now, in the Western world anyway, North America. And I know beyond that, I think Australia, New Zealand, the UK, they all have varying degrees of these problems as well. So the English-speaking world, the post-Christian nation that we live in, and post-Christian society and world that we live in, there's a lot of problems there. So we have to really, really be careful to, take care of ourselves and our families as best we can, and do what we can with what God has blessed us with. Right now, He's blessed me with the capacity and the ability to eat meat, and I'm going to keep on doing it for as long as I can, as long as they don't make it impossible to get. So that's what we're going to keep on doing. So don't worry about evolution and all that silliness. Eat your meat. God bless.